So the Morrie's Automotive Group decided that it was time for another muscle car shootout. So what we did is grab 3 of Detroit's finest automobiles. We have the Camaro SS, the Mustang with the 5.0, and then we grabbed a Scat Pack Challenger that we just happened to have. So what I'd like to do is show you around these vehicles, talk a little bit about the stats, and then maybe give you a good driving review. So almost in an ode to the 1968 to the 71 Challengers, this one is the Scat Pack. Although we didn't have a V8 on hand, that one does put out 485 horsepower. That would be the most out of all 3 of these cars, which is quite impressive. It is the largest car. It's about 8 inches longer as far as the wheelbase is concerned, so you do get a little bit more trunk space with this car. And inside, I'll tell you what, I grew up a Chevy guy, and I never expected to jump inside of a Dodge and actually enjoy my time in there. So a few weeks back, we did have a nice afternoon that we got to spend in this 5.0 Mustang. So if you want the full review, make sure to check out the link. But as far as this car is concerned, the 5.0 with these black Recaro seats, the sport package and everything you get with this, I think it's an outstandingly good looking car. The all black is kind of menacing with the new retro design with this vehicle. I mean, the 6-speed in this thing is so much fun to drive. Comparatively, again, that is the V6 in the Challenger. And the clutch is a little light in the Camaro, which would take a little bit getting used to, but you can hop in the Mustang and immediately be ready to have fun and be comfortable all day long. So the Ford Mustang with the GT and the V8 gives you 435 horsepower. When we were at Detroit for the auto show this year, they unveiled the GT350 and the GT350R. If you want some serious track day performance, that is the car you're going to want to look up. So the 2015 Camaro with the SS V8 does a 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. That's identical to the Mustang and only 0.1 seconds slower than the Challenger will do it. That's impressive, being it only has 426 horsepower, which is the slightest of the group. That being said, you have 426 horsepower. Again, that super light clutch like I mentioned before, when you kick the button 3 times in the traction control to put you in the competition mode, I think this Camaro is definitely my favorite out of the group as far as sounds. So the Scat Pack Challenger with those 20-inch wheels on there and that red with the white stripes looks super aggressive coming down the highway. That being said, the all-black Mustang is tough to beat. Again, you get a large aluminum wheel on this car, but it's kind of that retro design of the back end of the vehicle that I'm a huge fan of. Also the Camaro. I mean, it's been out for a few years now. In 2015, there have been a few changes to the front and rear. This is the 14. We weren't able to get our hands on the 15. But I mean, with the hood scoop, the SS badging, you know you've got more than 400 horsepower under the hood, and it proves it just by the way it looks. This yellow, I don't want to compare it to the Transformer Bumblebee, but that's the first thing I think of. That, hey, this thing's got horsepower and it feels like a Transformer when it goes. All right, so let's go for a little cruise in the Challenger here. So again, this is the automatic with the V6, which is slightly problematic for our shootout. But that being said, I'll tell you what, this thing is extremely comfortable. Between the package that this one has and just kind of the overall ride, it is the longer wheelbase again, so you get a little bit more comfort just being that it's a little bit larger car. I mean, there's so many different buttons and controls in here, it can be a little overwhelming. But that being said, they're extremely easy to use. There's nothing that I found when I didn't jump in the car, with the exception of the fuel gauge, that wasn't easily accessible and cool stuff to have. There's a whole bunch of different apps, the radio, Bluetooth, I mean, there's this competition kind of a mode, and then there's Super Track Pack mode. So when you push that, it's essentially gonna shut your traction control down, and it's gonna give you a nice sound out of the back here too. I mean, you could kick it over to manual mode too, and this thing gets up and moves for the V6. It's not like being in the Mustang or the Camaro, but you know what? As far as the 3 cars are concerned, I think I like the looks best of this car. Okay, so now we're in the 2015 5.0 Mustang, and the first thing has to be these black Recaro seats in here. They're leather, they're comfortable, and they hold you exactly where you want to be. The thing that's really cool about them is how fast you feel like you want to go all the time. There's this little ball shift knob in here with the 6-speed, And I mean, it sounds good. I kicked it over. There's different sport steering modes you can put in, and then a Sport Plus a track mode as well. And when you put it in Sport Plus, it kind of wakens it up even a little bit more than I guess it already is with more than 400 horsepower. But the clutch is super, super comfortable and easy to drive. I mean, you could spend all day in this car and comfortably drive around town. There's other cool things if you do go out to the track. You have track apps, there's fuel, all your trip meters are in there, as well as a gauge mode. So that's going to tell you all the different temperatures so you can monitor everything if you're out maybe doing a little bit more hoon style driving. So this Mustang did get an independent rear suspension, which is noticeably different from the 14. Plus, you get that beastly 5.0 Mustang sound out of the back, and that would not get old. I know it sounds good, and I've heard a couple even with some exhaust systems put into them as well, and oh boy does this thing sound mean. But you know, as far as the shootout goes, rather the competition between the three cars, I think if I had to pick one to buy, it would be the Mustang. And that's only because you could spend all day in this car. It gets good fuel economy as far as a 5-liter V8 is concerned. And it's the easiest one to drive out of the bunch. All right, so now we are in the SS Camaro. So as far as interior comforts, this one might not have the package levels as the other two. But you know, the seats are still pretty comfortable. It's a cloth seat in this one, but you do get the leather steering wheel shift knob combo. And I mean, this one seems like definitely a driver's car, where you just kind of the base package, but a monster motor up front. And that's kind of what American Muscle's all about. So I have no complaints on that side. So I've already clicked it into competition mode. And I don't know if you can hear that, but let me get on it one time here. This thing gets up and moves, and you know, in a muscle car shootout, the one thing you want is something that gets up and goes. And I know we didn't have the V8 Challenger, but you know, this thing might be pretty quick. That 0 to 60 time of 4.5 seconds. You feel like you get all of that when you're behind the wheel. The infotainment system in here is just okay compared to the Challenger, which was my favorite, and then the sync system, which I've gotten pretty accustomed to. This one is a little dated for me. I hope that new 2016, when that new body style comes out, has a really easy to use system, because this one isn't the greatest. But that's the only real bad thing I have to say about this car. As far as a day-to-day driver, that's where it's lacking. But as far as like maybe a weekend warrior as a car that sounds that good, and you get in these seats, and you know, it does have a good feel to it, but it's the one thing that kind of turns me away from this car. Is just sort of the basic interior in here. But I do like the exterior styling. I like the heritage the most of the Camaro. I mean, to me, a 1967 Camaro is one of the ultimate cars of all time. And then you slap the SS badge on this car, it better be something special. Thanks for watching our muscle car shootout. If you have any questions or would like to schedule a test drive in any one of these vehicles, make sure to call, click, or stop by your nearest Morrie's location. Thanks again for watching, and make sure you buy happy.